Hey guys, it's Emmanuel. Welcome again to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about message versus method and the importance of prototyping in the context of a project that I just finished and that I just presented at school. So I'm going to start off by explaining Ronald Barthes' theory called death of the author. Essentially, he talks about how a piece of work is not dictated any longer by the author's original intent, rather by the interaction between the text or artwork or whatever it is and the audience. He rejected the fact that the idea could actually have one singular meaning. In fact, it has multiple meanings depending on who you ask and depending on who you present it to. And this also has to do with another concept called semiotics. And in semiotics, a sign is something that communicates an intended or unintended meaning. So essentially, whatever the audience, feels from the artwork. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's actually something that I deal with in my recent artwork called Make Art Great Again, which was an embroidered hat that I essentially wanted to create a hat that represents the artist and the artists that truly work, for a purpose and intention in their heart rather than just a product. That's why in the back of the hat, it actually says, are you making culture or just making product? However, what I did not expect is how just using a red hat and the make blank great again quote could actually cause my artwork or the hat itself to bring all the context that Donald Trump, that Republicans, and that the current state of America brings. So essentially all this controversy around Donald Trump and around the politics of America right now were embedded into my artwork and into the hat, even though I had absolutely no intention of doing that. But that's the power of semiotics, and that's the power of connotation. Where you take the inspiration from can actually involve so many symbols and meanings that maybe that's not your intention. But that's what Ronald Barthes spoke about in Death of the Author. You're not part of, of the meaning anymore. What you say sometimes doesn't matter once the artwork and the project is already out there in the world. What others interpret it as is what matters at the end. So I posted the original hat on Reddit, and man, I got so many negative comments. But essentially, like, the core of what people were saying is that it seemed as if I was either trying to make a controversy or an argument because I was trying to be sneaky with this MAGA slogan, but a twist to it, or if I was being super political. It also felt for some people as if I was trying to make a product out of it, which kind of contradicted the quote that I had on the back. So essentially, that is why I took the original concept of the hat and actually made it into a project studying the power of semiotics. And essentially, I have the hat right here. So this is a project that I ended up doing. As you can see around the text right here, it says connotation in quotation marks, talking about the connotation that this quote has. I actually embroidered this in the front and with the quote in the back. I also did this little tag and this handle with care label and the label right here where it says my name and all that to make it feel like if it's a real relic, like if this is an actual, museum artifact that somebody's looking at in a gallery. And I will put pictures right here, and the way that I displayed it also made it feel like, wow, this is a historical artifact that represents connotation, that represents semiotics, and represents the time that we're currently in. So this also taught me the importance of peer review. Guys, it is so important to get feedback from your work. Sometimes it exists in your mind and you think it's the best thing ever, but you need to prototype. You need to start sharing your work, because I know that sometimes as artists, we feel like if we shouldn't share anything at all because it's like spoiling what we're gonna do, and we want that big moment, like, wow, the thing that nobody has ever seen. But there's some things that it's better to prototype. It's better to share drafts because you start understanding what people perceive about it, especially in the current age. Receiving feedback from others is so important. Growing as a creative and as a brand, getting that brand trust, allowing people to be able to be part of your work actually draws them in on the final product too, because they're like, wow, I saw the behind the scenes, I saw how this was worked out, and I can appreciate the final product. That's, the best way that prototypes can work. But prototypes can also work in the way that it worked for me, where I did a draft and a prototype of a product that I wanted to do, and I thought it was amazing, but I got the opposite. I got a lot of comments saying, wow, man, this is not good. This is terrible. I'm probably going to share some of the comments right here on the side, but it was crazy, all the comments that I got. I got good and bad. So essentially that's why I turned it into more like an art project, more like an art artifact, and I didn't make it as a product. I didn't, release it massively to the market. I just kept it as a study of semiotics in a political context. And I think it came out really great. I presented it today. A lot of people really liked it. They saw, the rawness. They saw how it felt like if it was a story, in this whole argument and conversation and dialogue, essentially brought into one singular hat, where the hat wasn't just seen as a product anymore, but as the canvas for our artwork. And I think that I'm going to be doing a whole lot more with that, actually. Even though I will be selling products, even though I will be selling, things, because I want people to, wear my stuff. I want them to experience the art. Sometimes creating a shirt or a hoodie or whatever, it doesn't always have to be for a product. That singular hat itself, it can be a one of one. It can be such a unique thing, and it can be seen as a dialogue of art. And I'm going to explore that for sure much more in the future. And yeah, that is my video explaining message versus method, the importance of understanding where you get things from and inspirations from, and the power of prototyping and of sharing those rough drafts. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to follow me on Instagram. Check out my website. I have some things that I'm selling right now, but also all my projects that I've done are going to be right there. And yeah, guys, let me know what type of video you guys want to see next. I'd love to share more. I'd love to do more of these videos. I think they're super cool. And yeah, love you guys.